Hello, welcome back to another video. If you like what you see, do hit that subscribe button and smash the like. But for now, let's get into it. So as you can see on this map, the London Overground forms a sort of outer circle line. And today, we're going to take a train in from Barking up to Gospel Oak, from Gospel Oak straight to Clapham Junction, and from Clapham Junction all the way around up to Shadwell. Because we're starting at Barking Riverside, we have to finish our journey on London Overground a little bit earlier than the full circuit, but I think it's close enough. That's it, all locked up, and away we go now. So as our train is now sat waiting to depart, we can actually look through the end of the station and we can see that the tracks actually run up until the end wall. The reason for this is that Barking Riverside has been designed in such a way that the line may easily be extended when required. And now we've boarded the train, here's a little handy feature you might not have known about. At each end of the train, by the cabs, there's a USB charge point for your electronic devices. As we begin to make our way out of Barking Riverside, on the left hand side you can see Barking Substation, and this has played quite a big role in how the viaduct has been designed up ahead. As we can see on the left hand side again, the pylons coming out of the substation have the power cables coming out and across up to the next set of pylons. Now these continue to run down the side of the line parallel for a few hundred metres. It's important to note these pre-existed before the line was ever thought of or even built. And just coming into shot now, you can actually see the viaduct we're about to go over. The interesting fact about these power lines is that the railway line has been built to such a way that to be within allowable tolerances, there is only 10 centimetres worth of allowable tolerance in clearance right now between the overhead catenary and those power lines. The train then goes up a steeper incline in order to traverse the Tilbury main line. And between the bottom of the viaduct and the Tilbury main line's catenary, there is also a 10 centimetre margin for the clearance. Not forgetting at this moment now, High Speed 1 actually passes underground, which they have also only allowed 1 metre either side of the tunnel, for which the 45 metre piles have been sunk down into the earth to support the viaduct. And this was all done without any closures to High Speed 1 or any speed restrictions, which I think is pretty impressive. This is also the reason for the concrete track base on the viaduct, as ballasted track wouldn't be able to keep within the specified margins without movement. And what's even more impressive is they've managed to do it without any check rails, which would have severely complicated the track laying. And all of this, the speed limit is 40 miles an hour, with an allowance for 10 extra miles per hour for any overspeed that may occur, and still be safe. But as we come off of the viaduct now, you can see the bridge above. This is called Renwick Road Bridge. And just past the bridge there is a space that has been reserved for a new station in the future. This will either be called Castle Green or Renwick Road, and it depends which plans you're actually looking at. But here you can see the tracks from the viaduct split into two to allow for the island platform. You may notice the train's actually slowed down quite a lot, and this is because the driver is trying not to stop at a red signal and is just creeping up to it. This is whilst we wait for a freight train to finish marshalling in the yard next to us and then make its way through Barking in front of us. There are plans ahead to remodel Ripple Lane sidings so that it may handle longer trains without having to marshal. Here we can see the old platform number 1 at Barking. This is where the trains used to terminate, but now they run through platform 7 and 8. Platform 1 finds itself without a use. Perhaps they'll still use it in times of disruption. Past Barking, the train takes a spur off of Barking Junction up the Gospel Oak line itself, along with a multitude of freight trains. However, here is us now blissfully rolling into Gospel Oak itself, just on the approach. An interesting fact, this station was actually named Kentish Town when it opened. However, in 1867, a new station was opened half a mile closer to Kentish Town, which was then called Kentish Town. and then subsequently renamed Kentish Town West in 1924. And the station we're currently pulling into now, at the beginning of all the name changes, was renamed to Gospel Oak. I hope you got all that. As we change trains here, you can see there are actually 3 routes out of Gospel Oak. Routes 1 and 2 from Stratford to Richmond or Clapham, and trains between Gospel Oak and Barking Riverside. Every service has a 15-minute interval. But for now we're just going to roll on out to Gospel Oak and make our way down to Clapham Junction. The train takes quite a circuitous route via Willesden Junction, but it does mean you avoid Zone 1, and avoid paying those Zone 1 fares. The junction we're going over now is where the Gospel Oak to Barking line, or Goblin line, as it's locally known, is joining on to this, the North London line. This is the interior of the Class 378s from London Overground. As you can see, they're not quite as nice as the 710s, neither do they have any USB charge points. But they do get the job done, and the air conditioning is still quite good. As we come out of the station at Willesden Junction, the train takes quite a severe left-hand turn, and also down an incline. This is so that we can now join the West London line. The line now diverging is the line that you can see towards Richmond. This line is one of the only lines where an overground train shares tracks with an underground train, and this occurs at Gunnersbury, through to Richmond. And even more interesting, I think this is the only place where third rail services meet 4 rail services on the underground. Another interesting fact about that branch is that Kew Garden Station is the only London Underground station with a pub attached to it. The pub being called the Tap on the Line, which is quite apt really. As we complete our descent around the sharp left-hand corner, we're now approaching the area of Old Oak Common, and we all know which that is famous for, or as other people think, infamous. I'll let you guys battle that one out in the comments down below. So after passing Willesden Junction, our route actually takes us past the Hitachi depot on the Great Western Main Line, and on the same area of land, the brand new Old Oak Common station for High Speed 2 will be built, as you can see in my other videos. As you can see at this junction, we're now about to join the West London line. The West London line used to be quite a good place to spot trains, at locations such as Kensington Olympia. Now as we pass Shepherd's Bush, we can actually see the Westfield Shopping Centre. This is one of 2 in London, the other being in Stratford at the other end of the line. Incidentally, between the 2 shopping centres, there's 2 ways to travel direct. One on the Central line, and the other on the London Overground. And here we are arriving at Olympia, the name being drawn from the Olympia Exhibition Centre behind. This station was also the terminus for Motorrail, run by Intercity and later Great Western, finally finishing in 2005. I'm pretty sure there's another video there in Motorrail in the future, so do watch this space. In this shot you can see the station Imperial Wharf, which is just before the Battersea Railway Bridge which we're about to traverse. This is one of only 2 bridges over the Thames on the London Overground railway network, the other being Kew Railway Bridge. And here we are arriving into Clapham Junction, this train's terminus. Clapham Junction is the busiest train station in the whole of Europe, with up to 180 departures per an hour, which is on average a train every 20 seconds. This footage doesn't do Clapham Junction much justice, so when we get off the train I'll have a little walk around and see what we can see. The eagle-eyed of you may have spotted this is platform number 1. This is platform number 1 of 17 platforms at this station. For the next part of the video, I've just compiled some shots of trains coming in and out of Clapham Junction. If you want to skip ahead on this part, feel free to do so. But it is very interesting to see just how many trains there are coming in and out of this massive station.
If you see something suspicious at Clapham Junction, please text the British Transport Police on 61016. See it, say it, so.
We're now going to go down onto platform number 2, where there's a train awaiting us, through to Highbury and Islington. We're going to take this train as far as Shoreditch. And here we are departing Clapham Junction for Shoreditch. This journey should take us around half an hour. Most of this journey is spent trundling around South London on bridges and viaducts, which is quite interesting, and a much better view than going on the Underground for sure. train then dives underground at Canada Water, where it's preparing to go under the Thames. But before it does, we'll make a stop in Rotherhithe, and then again on the north side of the Thames in Wapping. And here is our stop, Shadwell, where we have alighted the train. We're going to make our way up the stairs, and spoiler alert, there's a lot of stairs. This is one of those stations, even when you're healthy, you might just want to take the lift anyway. But for now I'm going to put the video on fast forward so you haven't got to watch me climb every single last step. Eventually we caught the DLR to Limehouse, then C2C back to Barking. But again, this is what we were met with. More freight trains coming through Barking Station. This time we had to wait for 2 freight trains to pass before our London Overground train finally arrived 8 minutes late, even though it had ran its entire route on time. Eventually, our train managed to find a path into the platform, and once on board we actually depart rather promptly. Here's a quick tip for these trains, the Class 710s on the London Overground. If you want to sit on a seat facing forwards, tip down one of these seats and then you can sit forwards with your legs to the side of the seat. These seats can be found at each end of the train just behind the driver's cab. You can do this as long as it's quiet enough that the other seat is not required. As we can see here, once we got the run, our driver did try to make up the missed time. Again, in this clip you can see the impressive shape of this viaduct, where trains not only have to deal with varying inclines, they also have to deal with varying degrees of radius on the corners as well. And as I was explaining earlier, the dimensions of this viaduct are very, very close to the margins of acceptability, and it's quite a feat of engineering in itself. Here we are arriving back in at Barking Riverside where this journey began. I hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I did the journey. And again, if you like what you see, do hit that subscribe button to keep notified of future videos. And on that note, take care and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.